I come to the floor today to talk again about another important issue that's pending before the Congress right now that's of extreme importance to millions and millions of Americans that are following this debate through the viewing of the procedures here on the Senate floor and in the House, and also following on Twitter and other internet sites and opportunities on their local news and radio stations about what we're doing on disaster relief. And that's a good question, because I think, and many of the senators, Democrats and Republicans as well on the Senate side, particularly 10 of my colleagues from the other side that stood with us last week to say it's time to fund the disasters in America today. And we are questioning why the House of Representatives is dragging their feet on this important issue, or why the leadership, the Republican leadership in the House, would be even hesitating to fund the ongoing needs of FEMA, the Corps of Engineers, the Department of Housing and Urban Development through Community Development Block Grant funding, and agriculture disaster relief, which is so important. In disasters, sometimes the pictures focus on cities or suburbs, and it's heart-wrenching. And I'm going to show you some of those pictures now. This is Missouri. This is Joplin, Missouri, just earlier this year. It's just a third of the city was literally destroyed by a group of tornadoes that came through. And some of the weather specialists, Mr. President, said they had never clocked winds with this speed and power in the entire time they've been recording this data. They said they believe that some of the winds exceeded 300 miles an hour. This is horrifying. And why the Republican House leadership says that now is the time to try to find offsets for these disasters. Had we insisted on that for Katrina and Rita recovery, the Gulf Coast would still be devastated. But year after year, as a country, when our people have been harmed by natural disasters, this national government has come together and said, yes, we as a nation, a United States of America, not a divided but a united nation, is going to come to help our brothers and sisters that need help. Why is this different? And why is it different when some of the House Republican leadership can't run fast enough to send money, cannot run fast enough to send money to Iraq and Afghanistan to rebuild those communities and those cities, but yet when our own people from these communities ask for help, they want to now throw up the smokescreen of, well, we have to find an offset. Let me give you two really good reasons. One, we are eventually going to have to pay for everything the federal government shells out. I've heard criticism of the Senate approach, which I'm leading and proud to lead. They say things in the press I've read like, well, the Senate just picked a number out of the air. Let me be very clear. We picked no number out of the air. The clerks of the appropriation committees, who are very steeped and knowledgeable about what these agencies need now and what they may need in the years ahead, met. We crunched the numbers, and Senator Reid then looked at those numbers, took them down a bit to try to accommodate the anxiety on the other side of the aisle from spending too much money, and came up with a rational, reasonable number for FEMA, for ag relief, for community development block grant. And I think under the circumstances, that's about the best we could do. Do you know what the House of Representatives did, which makes no sense whatsoever? And I hope some of the print press are listening to this, so you might could write this in the newspaper tomorrow. They took last year's number. They took last year's number. These disasters are happening now. They took the number that was in the bill before the disasters happened and just plugged that in like they're doing something good for the country, and then basically said, take 6 weeks of it, and we're out of here. We're going home for the week. So I don't really take kindly to any kind of criticism that the Landrieu numbers or the Senate numbers might not be crunched or reviewed carefully enough. I've done the best review that I can possibly do and have every confidence that the numbers that I've presented to this Senate, which is about $6.9 billion, are as accurate an estimate that I have at my fingertips to say what we're going to need in the next year. At least I'm dealing in reality. What land do they live in? This isn't about a year and a half ago. This is about now. So their number is wrong. Their approach is wrong. Their approach is wholly insignificant and inadequate, and it is morally wrong. And I could go on and on through every state in our country, small towns, counties that have been devastated, roads, bridges, public buildings, water, sewer control facilities. So again, I think people at home are looking and reviewing this debate and saying, so let me get this straight. Speaker Boehner and Majority Leader Cantor rush to fund rebuilding in Iraq and Afghanistan and didn't require offsets when we went into war in this rebuilding effort, but now we have to stop and debate for weeks and months over finding the proper offsets. So I hope people will let their voices be heard in the next couple of days. It's very important. So if you're interested in protecting your communities in levees and flood control and you vote against the Senate position, you're going to have a lot of explaining to do, because even when you go home and pound your chest and say, well, I voted for the House number that was last year's number, there's no money in there for the Corps of Engineers. So good luck explaining that to your constituents. I could not explain it to mine and remain the senator from Louisiana. The Senate has made a great bipartisan effort with senators like Senator Blunt and Toomey and Vitter, Vitter and the senators from Maine, other senators from the other side that have joined this effort. I am asking the House, please reconsider your position. Please fund disasters now. We will figure out a way to pay for this over time. We have already made provisions for this in the negotiations that were done a month ago between the Republican and House leaders. Our people are depending on us to act.